everyone, it's Sarah with the West Lincoln Public Library, back for another book review for the month of August. I hope everyone has had a lovely summer so far, and as we are winding down to the end of the warmer months, we are all looking forward to potentially school starting or fall coming around the corner. Now, I know that for August, a few of you are looking forward to or dreading going back to maybe the warmer weather or maybe the cooler weather, depending on how you feel. But I am most excited about one thing in particular. There was a show called, if you're familiar, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, based on a book series by Holly Jackson that came out the first week of August, and I was absolutely dying to see it. Now, for those of you that are not familiar, we actually featured the trilogy A Good Girl's Guide to Murder here in the Wellandport branch of our public library, and it is one of my all-time favorite series. It is actually one of the only trilogies I've ever given every book 5 stars. Now, I obviously do not want to go ahead and spoil any of the plots for that, whether you plan to read the book or watch the show. Instead, I'm going to cover one of Holly Jackson's newest books that came out this spring, and this one is called The Reappearance of Rachel Price. Do not worry, it is a standalone, it has nothing to do with the plot of the trilogy, but it is just as good. It is on par with the mystery, the suspense, the thriller, the characters as the rest of her series, and it was actually one of my first 5-star reads for this year. So, without further ado, I will get into it. The trigger warning content for this book does include violence, kidnapping, gaslighting, emotional manipulation. There is nothing inherently extremely graphic or any sort of violent or sexual content in this book, so I do deem it available both for adults and teens, but of course it does have to do with a good number of crimes to solve and mysteries to unravel, so if you're interested, we can begin. So the summary to this novel is our main character is an 18-year-old girl named Annabelle, or who goes by Belle, who is basically the daughter of one of the world's greatest unsolved mysteries. Rachel Price was a mother who disappeared when her daughter was 2 years old. She had vanished while on the side of a country road, leaving her 2-year-old in the back of her car, running so it was warm, safely buckled into her car seat with her coat on, and simply vanished. There was never another sign of her for the following 16 years. Police was investigated, family was questioned, her father was repeatedly interviewed because everyone had assumed that he was the most likely suspect and culprit. But of course, Annabelle fervently believed in her father's innocence, backed him up, everything. And there were really no leads after that. Things simply went quiet. And of course it was the talk of the town. Her friends turned on her, didn't trust that her father wasn't guilty. She lost a lot of people. And in the meantime, Belle grew up really thinking she wasn't missing anything. She hadn't really known her mom, and her dad was all that she needed, a really supportive, fulfilling parent. The rest of her family, her aunt, her uncle, her cousin. She really just wanted to kind of put the concept of Rachel Price behind her, because in her eyes, she really wasn't her mom. She was just someone who disappeared when she was a baby. So, 16 years after Rachel Price's infamous disappearance, a TV network decides they want to do a documentary about the disappearance of Rachel Price. And that is where we pick up right in the middle of our book. Belle is being interviewed by all manner of TV personalities, specifically a gentleman named Ramsey, who want to know her opinions on things, how she feels, to be walked back through every memory she can keep, whether it's being left in the car, any memories she had of her mother. They interview the family members, her father, her distant relatives, her aunt, her uncle, her grandfather, who is suffering from a stroke and is wheelchair bound, so he doesn't really speak too much. And all the while, she really just kind of wants to get this over with, which is why, to the surprise of everyone, one day out in the woods after attempting to film a scene recreating the infamous car scene when she is discovered as a baby and her mother has vanished. Belle runs into a woman who, as she describes in the book, looks like she's been through hell. Ragged appearance, torn clothing, injured, cold, and she recognizes her as Rachel Price, her mother. And sure enough, the woman makes her way back into town after Belle essentially takes off out of survival instincts. She doesn't know how to process what she's seeing, so she leaves. And when the woman makes it back to the house and identifies herself as Rachel Price, she tells her daughter and her husband and the rest of her family the story of how she had been kidnapped out of her car when she had been driving along. And to save her daughter's life, he went with her, and this man that she doesn't know, held her captive for 16 years. And it is improbable, it is unlikely, it is something out of a detective novel or a crime movie, but she is there. She is in the person, she is in the flesh, she has just enough information to make everything possible. But Belle doesn't believe it. I mean, how could she? It's insane. And honestly, the reader is kind of left puzzling about it too. It's very serendipitous, it's coincidental. How could you possibly think everything could just line up so neatly? A woman being gone for 16 years only to return at basically the height of a reinvestigation of her disappearance. There is a lot of very interesting interpersonal connections in this book, not only through Belle's connection to her family. There's also the lack of connection to her mother, who throughout the book is desperate to connect with her, who wants to know how her life has been, what she's missed out on for 16 years. Her connection to her cousin, who honestly is one of her closest friends and trusted confidants. She's one of the only people that didn't leave or turn on her after her mother disappeared, and basically shunned her, thinking her father was guilty of the crime. It's a very wildly interconnected book. For someone that loves the human aspect in crime documentaries and missing person cases or any sort of like police or crime show, this was right up my alley, because you are constantly left doubting everyone's reasonings, motives, the words. Belle herself, as the narrative, is not inherently reliable either. Throughout the book, it is noted that she delights in, maybe not delight is the right phrase, when she becomes overwhelmed emotionally in a situation, she takes things, she steals things, whether it's a small tube of lipstick from a store or a button off a coat, or a little trinket from a table that she might seize. It's kind of a way of grounding her. And she is incredibly steadfast in essentially trying to poke holes in the narrative of her mother's reappearance. She simply can't comprehend that she is who she says she is, and why would she simply return? After all this time, why would she just come back? So the reappearance of Rachel Price should be a very happy and very warm celebration, but it isn't. There is so much suspicion, there is so much doubt in every person's narrative that you read that after a while you don't really know what to feel. And as Belle's perspective, wishing that the idea of Rachel Price simply didn't exist anymore, would simply go away, only to be suddenly presented with the real person in the flesh in front of her, it's a lot for her to try and take in. So she goes through denial. And we experience that through the book, how her personality changes, how her connections to her family changes in spite of her mother's attempts to get close to her. And then, of course, there's her mother's story. Is it true? Is it not? I loved every aspect of the human connections in these books. The crime was super interesting and the motive was wonderful. I'm really looking forward to hearing everybody's reactions based on it because, again, excellent, very excellent. It doesn't have any spoilers for the TV show or the other books coming up, so if you would like to start something for Holly Jackson's work and you're not entirely sure if it's your thing and you maybe don't want to commit to reading the full trilogy, which again I cannot stress was excellent and you will not be disappointed if you start it, I recommend The Reappearance of Rachel Price. We have it here at the Wellingport branch. Come check it out. I think you will enjoy it. I will see you back again in September for another book review, and until then, have an excellent August, everyone.